Welcome to my studio space, my corner in my painting classroom. Each student sort of has their own little space where they can work, and we have one class per week, but we come in whenever we want to just get stuff done. All our stuff is actually due next week, next Monday, so we have just under a week to finish everything and set it up to be graded. I was thinking of making a video of putting up everything for the final installation and sort of sharing what the grading part is like, but for now I wanted to just do just a tour of my little corner, showing you what work I've done and what I'm working on to prepare for that final grading. Yeah, so before I show you everything, I guess I should give you the context. Obviously, like for the final installation, it is a good thing to have a cohesive theme and body of work if you're doing several artworks. And my source of inspiration was a short film by Tim Walker called The Muse. And it's just sort of a mostly silent film about an artist, a photographer who has trapped a mermaid in a tank, and that is his muse. And I like how ambiguous it is, and it's really up to interpretation. And I've been appreciating that in art a lot, but I sort of interpreted it as a sort of an all-consuming relationship between the artist and a muse or an idea, belief, whatever. You know, that can go into the psychology of the human mind and obsession and destructive obsession. And I don't know, something about it just really stuck with me, and I've been obsessed with it for like maybe a year now, and I'm still not bored of it. So I've just been sort of making work as a response to that, but it's been really interesting. And I think we all love mermaids and things like that. I think lately I've really been interested in mythology and old stories and myths, and you know, as storytelling creatures, I think the things we've made up in the past are quite interesting and important, because although they're made up things, you know, all these creatures like mermaids and dragons and fairies, there's sort of a very childish implication with all these fantastical things. But actually, I think they can be a really interesting way of exploring human beings, since ultimately we created them, and they're sort of a manifestation of ourselves and our greatest fears and the things we don't understand about ourselves and the world around us. Yeah, I'll show you around. So if you've watched some of my past videos, you would have seen these tests that I did. I really enjoyed making these. These were sort of preparation for the final artwork. This class is actually, it's called Expanded Painting Practices, and there's a real emphasis on the expanded part. So they really encourage like incorporating other unexpected elements to painting and challenging what painting is. So I was really interested in using materials that could sort of really represent the beings and the mermaids that I wanted to paint. So I actually used cheesecloth and gel medium to basically glue and sculpt the cheesecloth into these flowy shapes. And it was really fun and interesting. I was kind of thinking about, you know, if you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, if you remember the sirens, I was obsessed with them, and I love their huge, long, flowing tails. So that was sort of a source of inspiration, but this was purely just a practice piece for the final painting, because the figure's in the exact same pose. You might have also seen this one, which was another sort of test with the cheesecloth and exploring materials, and our teacher actually allowed us to go and get these screen printing screens, I don't know what they're called, and use those to paint on or anything that we wanted really. So again, I used cheesecloth and some gel medium with some acrylic paint to make some interesting shapes and patterns. And on the other side, I did some writing. It says, "I am as much your prisoner as you are mine," which is basically a quote from the short film. By the way, I will put a link down below so that you can watch it if you're interested, because it might give you a bit of context for all this. I don't know, something about that quote really just stuck with me, and I think it's because of that fascination that I'm having with the all-consuming sort of obsession and destructive relationship. feeling like we might be in control of an obsession or a concept or idea or whatever it is, but ultimately being at its mercy and having no control. Once again, you might have seen this in another video. I'm just plugging all my past videos at this point. But this was me just trying to experiment with a new medium. Upstairs, there's the option to use acrylic paint and water to basically do spray painting. So that was really interesting because I've never tried spray painting before. It comes out really thin and not very saturated, and I don't know if I'd use it again, but yeah, it was interesting. And I did some extra pieces. I wanted to sort of extend the canvas. Even though these are all working towards the final installation, I doubt I'll be using most of these. I think I'm just going to use the best work that I like and that I think is relevant. But yeah, again, just showing you around. This is an atrocity and I do not like it. I just did it in one afternoon. I was quite frustrated because I wasn't really happy with how the class was going, and it wasn't good because I just had the mentality of just make something without actually thinking about why I wanted to make it or making any conscious decisions. I was just doing something for the sake of doing something. So it wasn't that productive or helpful, or I just don't like it. This was also sort of another piece that was just making something for the sake of making something. This was, I think, in my first class when I had no idea what to do. It's basically just a scene of the city, turning things into monsters. It was basically just me looking out this window and painting it spontaneously. This is where things start to get interesting because I was actually intentionally go in a direction. Things started to be more cohesive and interesting, and things just started to have actual intent and passion behind them. This is a piece that I've been working on for the past week or something like that, and I actually really like how it's turned out. I'm always scared someone's going to come and interrupt my TED talk. It's not completely finished, but it's almost there. I was basically trying to use collage elements to expand, to, you know, make an expanded work, since this is what the class is about. Again, I was using the cheesecloth to add that ruffly texture that I did in the other work. And this is where it gets quite interesting for me. I was having a walk one day on the beach with my father, and there were all these, like, hundreds of just drowned butterflies in the sand, and they were actually really well preserved and quite beautiful. So I kind of spontaneously just decided to collect them. I just thought that maybe I'd be able to use them, and there was something kind of reminiscent about the whole mermaid theme, and I don't know, there was just something interesting about this character that I had created in my head about this sort of beautiful, mysterious creature that lured in these butterflies and drowned them and has embellished herself with them. I ended up collecting quite a few and just putting them all in a jam jar, and I'm not gonna lie, it kind of stinks. I just use PVA glue because it's a very cheap alternative to gel medium to basically merge them into the painting. And since it's clear, you can see all the details, which I think is really interesting. At some point in class, we were able to laser cut an MDF board, and I basically used the outside remains of it to add this frame. And it was really interesting because we could just cut the MDF board into whatever shape we wanted, and additionally just print whatever image we wanted. And I should have shown you before, like, I started painting on the inside piece that you see cut out, so you can't see the actual image, but I printed jellyfish on there, so it made some really interesting patterns. But I did use the inside piece and I covered up the image. So this is what I'm working on currently. It's definitely not finished. I wanted to make it more loose and sort of painterly. I'm hoping to finish it by next Monday. All of this work was basically an extension of this large final painting that I've been planning on doing for a while. So this is where it all sort of started, and this was my direct response to the short film, The Muse. And you might have seen this one as well, floating around in other videos. I'm 100% not going to finish it by next Monday. I might include the unfinished piece, but I thought it would be interesting to see it next to all the other pieces that have sort of spawned from it. And this is basically where I am at now. All that's left for me to do in this class is finish off that painting and hopefully do a bit more of my very large self-portrait painting and set it all up for the final installation. So I will hopefully make a video on that as well, and just show you what that's like in art school. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed my little tour of my corner in art school, and I hope you got some interesting insight into my painting class and what it's like to prepare for a final grading. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to like the video and maybe subscribe if you'd like to keep up with all my artistic endeavors. Yeah, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one very soon. Make some art, it's good for your soul. Bye! Boop.